like a competition, but there will be no losers. Both sides will win.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kukushkin, Mr. Popov, ladies and gentlemen, spasibo. And now, I think I said it right, back to Walter Cronkite.
Woody Allen, good gracious, Woody Brown at Disneyland. Well, it is a fantasy world we live in today. It could be Woody Allen or Woody Brown. At Disneyland, talking to some of those Russian track stars who've been competing out there. It's now 3:30 Eastern Daylight Time. At 3:46 or 16 minutes from now, we should be getting the first signal from the command module as it comes back around the moon, and a couple of minutes after that, the first signal from the lunar module, and that's the one that we'll be really waiting for, because they must confirm that they have fired their descent propulsion engine successfully and are now in the orbit that will take them down within 10 miles of the moon, where they will again fire that engine for 12 minutes of a slow 300-mile letdown to the moon's surface, 300-mile range from 10 miles high. Well, Eric, we're getting close to that time now. It's just 45.5 minutes from the touchdown on the moon's surface, and one of the trite questions of young interviewers from time immemorial was, how do you feel? But I sort of wonder how you feel. I'm getting knots in my stomach.
Well, I haven't got to that point yet. I don't think the human mind can stay tense with its mind directly on this, focused terribly long. I don't know how long the average human attention span is. If you've tried to think about a dot, for example, very long, you can't do it terribly long. Here are men traveling at the highest speeds ever known and producing, if you want to put it in theatrical terms, the slowest, the most long drawn-out drama as a performance that we've ever seen, except maybe the Passion Play at Oberammergau or something, which I think took a long time. And so the mind wanders and thinks of all kinds of strange odds and ends. I found myself thinking about this LEM module, the lander that will go down, and why it looks like an insect. It looks totally non-functional, and of course it's nothing but functional. Not functional in aerodynamic terms for the Earth, but in its own terms. And maybe it ought to look like an insect. You know, there are about 700,000 or more varieties of insects and bugs on this Earth, the most ubiquitous form of moving life, I suppose. This thing looks like it, even the antenna, the little feelers that will touch the moon first. And after all, the insect is the only thing we know about on Earth that can walk on water, can live in a boiling geyser, it can live on a glacier, it can do all these things. That's why some entomologists, you know, think it'll take over the Earth and do away with man one day. So maybe it's natural this thing does look like a bug. They're remarkable things. And a lot of the little paradoxes about all this come to your mind as you read and you brood about it a bit. Here we are worrying about germs or microbes from the moon coming to pollute the Earth when we, and no doubt the other space power, the Soviet Union, are building up vast stores of bacteriological warfare weapons, germs, if time came to kill millions of people. This seems rather incredible. We're certainly probably more likely to pollute the moon, if that matters. I don't know if it does. Some of the things that have landed on it already must have left microorganisms around. The craft itself that will go down cannot be entirely sterilized. That's supposed to have been done, I think, under the international conventions about it. But you can't do it successfully, apparently. That interferes with some other things, so they won't be sterilized. I've seen one estimate. I think Alton Blakesley, the AP, wrote that the gases from the descent part of the module itself will amount to about 5% of the total moon atmosphere, which is very thin. What that would mean in time, I don't know. Perhaps that's not important either. But every human being, of course, gives off millions or billions of microscopic or submicroscopic organisms from his body, his hair, his breath, every day, and that will be all over the moon. And here we are, I think out in the western desert, there are experimental stations trying to figure out ways of, in replica, to create vegetation, atmosphere on the moon. Well, what about doing that for the deserts themselves? There are deserts all over the world that could be irrigated and create vegetation, make a lot of difference. We talk about Earth resources or moon resources, of mineral kind. Of course, we don't know half of what's in the Earth now. And as somebody pointed out, if the moon's surface were covered with polished diamonds, it wouldn't be economic to go and retrieve them. All this costs too much. Well, that's the sort of thing that occurs to many of us. I'm sure we're going to add it all up one day. It's going to be a field day for pundits, a field year, I think, for pundits for months and months to come. Philosophy will have to come later, but I want to see it work first, and I'm sure you're in the same state of mind. It's
Well, we're going
too
to
hard to look beyond.
get our chance to see it work this remarkable day and this remarkable age in 41 minutes from now. You know, Eric, we just might make the point once more because it was so much was made of it last week down at the Cape, but one of the reasons that Dr. Charles Berry of the space program didn't want extra people coming into his little laboratory where he had the spacemen pretty well sealed up in that week before they left was because, not that he thought they'd give them anything necessarily, but he wanted to monitor on what they themselves were taking to the moon, so he'd know what not only was left up there in the way of diseases, but what they acquired and brought back. They've tried to control this thing, but actually contamination of the moon's surface is too bad, and it's serious.
Of course, there are all the tremendous ultraviolet rays from the sun and the terrific cold and the 2-week night on the moon that ought to do away with quite a few.
Yeah.
Maybe the common cold will never take charge of the moon, Walter.
Gosh, let's hope we don't take that one up there. That would be the one good reason for going there, I should think, might be to get away from the common cold. It's 40 minutes before the landing on the moon, and it is now 9 minutes before we should begin to hear from the command module coming around on this pass, the 14th revolution of the moon, with some confirmation, we hope, that the lunar module has begun to drop into the orbit, which will take it down to the moon's surface. CBS News color coverage of the epic journey of Apollo 11 will continue in a moment.
Every day, every man, woman, and child in America throws out about 5 pounds of trash. Plastic, glass, metal, garbage, and paper. It costs over $4.5 billion every year to cart the mess away. Some cities have to freight refuse hundreds of miles to a dump. The world is running out of dumps. Officials estimate it will take 16 years to solve the problem. The International Paper Company wants to speed that up. So, we already make papers that turn into wholesome mulch instead of litter, and paper that dissolves in running water. And we're testing ways to turn trash into clean, strong construction materials. It's our job to bring you more and better paper. We feel it's also our job to take it away. The International Paper Company, where good ideas grow on trees.
Back here at our CBS News Space Headquarters, we're watching the countdown to the landing on the moon and waiting for the spacecraft to come around on this side of the moon again so we can get confirmation that all is still going well. They should be around in 7 minutes from now. And with me here is Newell Trask of the U.S. Geological Survey in Menlo Park, California. And Dr. Trask, I thought maybe we could take a quick look at a model we have here of the landing site, and you could tell us just what they're going to be seeing as they get down on that site 38 minutes from now.
Well, Walter, in this model of the landing site, the abundant craters we see there are about 1,000 feet across. So they're going to be seeing things that are much smaller than that. Probably they'll put down in one of those smooth, level areas that we see between the larger craters.
This model is made from how many miles high? What would that scene be? 69 miles high?
Probably lower than that. I think you could see this from, say, 30 miles.
30 miles
yes.
high. And now, because this is a level landing spot, and their maximum distance that they're going to probably venture from the lunar module is 100 feet, they're really not going to get close to any of these major features if they land right where they want to land.
That's correct, but there are smaller craters on there that we don't see in the model, and since no man has ever seen those before, they're going to be pretty interesting.
Oh, I'm not trying to downplay the standing on the moon by any means, and they will get those rock samples, which of course everybody is so interested in the scientific world. It might give us some clue as to how the moon was made, and therefore what Earth was made of, other than green cheese, of course. Are there any features around their desired landing spot that could be troublesome for them?
There are small craters that have blocks around them, scattered over the landing site, but these are widely separated, so I think they can avoid those.
And since this is a spot with just small craters and so forth, none of these major geological features, it is really an exploratory flight, isn't it? And it is hoped that they'll, in future flights, learn that they can so control the spacecraft in the moon environment that they can go into some of these craters, perhaps right into them, the larger ones, and certainly to the edge of them.
That's right. There are small, smooth places in these big craters where you could put down if you knew that you could navigate to it.
What do you expect they're going to find when they set foot on the moon, Dr. Trask? Are they going to sink in moon dust? Are they going to, with their 1/6 gravity, sort of bound across it? What's going to happen?
Well, they'll move very slowly, naturally, for the sake of caution. Apparently, in all of the moon, over all of the moon, there is a fine-grained soil-like material that will support their weight. So there's no danger of them sinking into it.
They'll sink a little bit, though. It's spongy,
yes,
isn't it?
It gives a little bit. Wet beach sand has been used repeatedly as an analogy, and I guess that's right.
What about this business we've heard of the dust of the moon clinging to them, perhaps obscuring vision by clinging to their visors? What is that problem?
Well, it doesn't appear to do that. It didn't do it on the Surveyor spacecraft to any great extent. When dust was kicked up by the firing of the engine, then it collected on some of the parts of Surveyor, but they won't get out, of course, until the engine is completely shut down.
Does it collect any more than Earth dust collects on a surface, or does it collect like wet sand, maybe, that sort of thing?
More like the wet sand, yes. Not so pervasive as to be on everything.
What makes it do that?
It's probably the high lunar vacuum that makes the grains cling like that. There's no water there for them to lubricate them, and there are unsatisfied charges on the edges of the grains, and they just cling to each other. These electrical charges make them do that.
I wonder if we could possibly take another look at that model. I don't know whether we're capable on that particular model of showing the approach to the site and what they see and what they must avoid on the approach to the site.
The model does start just about at the edge of the landing site, so we don't see on the model the last ridge, which is one of their important landmarks, and Boot Hill, and those features that we may be hearing about pretty soon.
Now, where is the last ridge? How far below them? How much clearance do they have of that?
I think that's around 1,000 feet.
It is 1,000 feet high?
No, not the ridge, but they would be 1,000
Maybe
feet
1,000 feet above
yes,
it?
Yes.
That's pretty close, isn't it? They're really, I guess, barnstorming, moonstorming as they come over that ridge to settle down onto this flat spot. And then are there any great depressions they must avoid?
No. From the last ridge onto the site, it's all pretty smooth.
And how far is that ridge from the site itself?
Oh, it's about 5 miles.
5 miles.
Yes.
So they've got, that's kind of like a carrier landing. They've got to get right in there on the spot. Thank you very much, Newell Trask, U.S. Geological Survey, and we'll be talking to you more about that moon surface as they get down on it and start walking around on it. We should be hearing from the spacecraft now in about 2 minutes, and we're going to be tuned into Houston so that we get any report they have. We have learned that the first reports come not by voice but by telemetry. That is this high rate information sent down to the computers, comes at thousands of bits a second and feeds into all of those monitor systems in Manned Space Center in Houston. By that means they know that the spacecraft is well, that it's perhaps that it's in the right position and all that sort of thing. They'll be able by rapid computation to know also that the lunar module has properly fired its descent propulsion system engine. And then maybe 2 or 3 or 4 minutes after that, after we get that confirmation, we'll begin to hear the voice transmission from the lunar module and from the command module as well. It's now 32 minutes.
We acquire the LEM. It should be at an altitude of about 18 nautical miles, descending toward the 50,000-foot pericynthion, from which point the powered descent to the lunar surface will be initiated.
I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal, before this decade is out, of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the Earth. No single space project in this period will be more impressive to mankind or more important for the long-range exploration of space, and none will be so difficult or expensive to accomplish. We propose to accelerate the development of the appropriate lunar spacecraft. We propose to develop alternate liquid and solid fuel boosters, much larger than any now being developed, until certain which is superior. We propose additional funds for other engine development and for unmanned exploration, explorations which are particularly important for one purpose which this nation will never overlook: the survival of the man who first makes this daring flight. But in a very real sense, it will not be one man going to the moon. If we make this judgment affirmatively, it will be an entire nation.
The voice of the late President John Fitzgerald Kennedy in the speech he gave to Congress on May 25, 1961, 8 years and 2 months ago, when he announced that this nation's goal was to put a man on the moon in this decade. And this is to happen 30 minutes from now. We have acquisition of signal from the command module. Let's listen to Houston. We do not have immediate transmission, but we'll keep tuned in there to hear whatever they report to us from the Manned Space Center. They have just reported.
Columbia, Houston, we're standing by, over.
That's the capsule communicator in Houston, Charlie Duke, calling for the Columbia, which is the command module, where Mike Collins is now alone. Telemetry tells us that he and his spacecraft are well. They've come around the moon again for the important pass. But they do not have voice communication, so they do not know whether he visually has had sight of the
Houston, over.
lunar module.
Houston, Columbia, reading you loud and clear. How many? Roger, bye, Mike. How did it go, over? Listen, babe, everything's going just swimmingly. Beautiful. Great. We're standing by for Eagle.
Going just swimmingly, he says, and he's been in contact.
Okay, he's coming along. We copy, out.
He's been in contact, of course, all the way, so that means that Eagle, the lunar module, is in good shape. They have fired.
Columbia, Houston, we expect to lose your high gain sometime during the power descent, over. Columbia, roger. You don't much care, do you? No, sir.
That's Mike Collins. They were telling him that, confirming again, that they will be tuned in on the high gain antennas of the lunar module and not on his in the Watchdog command module Columbia. And as Mike Collins said, you don't care much, do you? It's 28 minutes now to the scheduled landing. And as you see in our animation,
Acquisition of signal from the LEM.
and there's the acquisition of signal from the LEM. That's just on target, exactly on time. The telemetry signals, they haven't talked to Neil Armstrong or Buzz Aldrin yet. Our animation shows what they should be seeing as over the moon's horizon the Earth is rising. They apparently, since they're exactly on the right flight plan timeline, they did fire their descent propulsion system engine. It worked exactly as it was supposed to, fired for 30
Houston,
seconds.
Eagle, how do you read? Bye, Eagle. We're standing by for your burn report, over.
There they are.
Roger, the burn was on time. The residuals before nulling, -0.1, -0.4, minus 0.1. X and Z null to 0. Nulling.
Now this is the breakup in signal we've come to expect as they come around the moon and have to readjust their antenna to aim for the receiving dishes here on Earth. It's not unexpected.
That burn sounds like it's very good with residuals of 1/10 of a foot per second in one axis and 4/10 in another. That's practically zero in this business.
It's almost perfect.
Antenna lock through the big 210-foot dish at Goldstone. We'll stand by.
Columbia, Houston, we've lost all data with Eagle. Please have him reapply on the high gain, over. Eagle, Columbia, Houston, would like you to reapply on the high gain. They've lost data.
26 minutes until the touchdown. Usual problems of communications at this stage.
Copy, Columbia. Eagle, Houston, did you call?
They're traveling now at around 4,300 miles per hour.
Houston, Eagle, how do you read now? Roger, bye-bye, Neil. We copied up to the AGS residuals. Would you please repeat the AGS residuals and the trim correction to sun check, over? Roger, AGS residuals, minus 0.1, minus 0.2, minus 0.7. And we used the pings down 86 for Delta BZ, which was 9.5, versus yours, which was 9.1, and I believe that may explain the difference. Apogee 57.2, Paraloon 9.1, sun check the 3 marks, noun 20 minus noun 22, plus 0.19, plus 0.16, plus 0.11, over. Right, copy, looks great.
That's 57.2 nautical miles by 9.1 nautical miles.
Guidance says we're go.
We're go.
That's
Now
one of
12
the
minutes, 54 seconds to ignition.
one of the better goes I've heard in a long time.
Boy, we're go for landing on the moon. Woo. We're go.
Gene Kranz just advised his flight controllers we're off to a good start. Play it cool.
We're now 24 minutes from the landing, and the next important maneuver is the maneuver, the last important one before landing. When they're 299 miles from the landing site and they're about 10 miles high, they fire off that descent propulsion system engine again. They're already over the Sea of Fertility at that point, coming up on the Sea of Tranquility. They fire the DPS for 12 minutes, which lets them down, slows them down.
12 minutes now until ignition for powered descent.
Until
Everything's
they're
still looking very good at this point.
slows them down from 4,600 miles per hour until they're just 5 feet above the surface and moving at about 1/3 of a mile an hour. At that time, they shut off the engines and drop to the lunar surface. 23.5 minutes now until that landing. "11.5 minutes until they begin to fire the engine again. This time we'll get a direct report. They'll be in touch with the Earth. A moment ago, Gene Kranz, flight director, told everybody in Mission Control to sit back and get ready. He said good luck to all of you, and it's absolutely quiet in Mission Control now, we're told.
I'll guarantee that no one's sitting back.
Oh.
They're right on the edge of the chairs as we are.
There are a lot of important people there in that kind of VIP quarter there behind the Mission Control desk itself. And all of the officials of the space program, Dr. Thomas Paine, the president.
12.9 nautical miles and descending.
Eagle again, heading inside a high gain, over.
Dr. Thomas Paine, president head of NASA, is there. Dr. Kurt Debus, the director of the Manned Space Center in Merritt Island, Cape Kennedy. Dr. Werner von Braun, head of the facility at Huntsville, Alabama. Dr. Robert Gilruth, the head of the Manned Space Center in Houston. Secretary of the Air Force Siemens there. General Samuel Phillips, director of the Apollo program. And men directly connected with this mission, George Low and Chris Kraft. Deke Slayton, one of the original 7 Mercury astronauts, and now the chief astronaut. Rocco Petrone, the launch director from Cape Kennedy. Astronauts Tom Stafford and Gene Cernan, McDivitt, John Glenn, Conrad, Anders, Lovell, all veterans of spaceflight are there watching. Wally Schirra is watching on the edge of his seat here in CBS News headquarters in New York. Eagle's in orbit now, 65.8 by 10.5 statute miles.
Eagle, Houston, we have you now. Do you read over? Loud and clear. Roger, we see your vert 47. Yeah, I don't know what the problem was there. It just started oscillating around in yaw. According to the needle, we're picking up a little oscillation right now, as a matter of fact. Roger, we'll work on it.
What kind of oscillation is that, Wally?
Slight oscillation in yaw, he said.
Referring to the LEM steerable antenna.
It's not
that comment about
critical.
the oscillations.
Not critical.
No. This is the antenna they're talking about.
Right on time. Roger. Did you copy the the sun check, Charlie? That's affirmative. We did, Buzz, out.
They're about 8 minutes now from the firing of the Central Propulsion System engine again to begin what they call powered descent initiation.
Eagle is now at 10.7 nautical miles, 7 minutes, 37 seconds from ignition.
Eagle, Houston, the AGS initialization looked good to us, over. Roger.
They're approaching their highest speed of 4,600 miles per hour when they fire that engine again. There are now 12 statute miles. That's the sort of miles that we measure things on Earth by, unless you're a sailor. 12 miles above the moon's surface, moving close to 4,600 miles per hour. Now in another 6.5 minutes, they'll be just 300 miles from the landing site.
Our radar checks indicate 50,000 foot parallel. Our visual altitude checks are steadying it out at about 53,000. Roger, copy.
That's a very good feeling. That means the landing radar is working well. Of course, it's a very important part of the landing descent.
It tells them both range to the landing site and altitude, speed, does it not?
It's in velocity, yes.
Velocity, yeah.
Feet per second descent.
Houston, we got a 500 alarm early in the program. Went to descent 1, proceeded on it, and we're back at auto again. Over. Roger, we saw that, Buzz. Thank you much, Al. I say again, okay, that wasn't an alarm, that was a code, okay. Roger, we saw that.
What's that?
That's probably a big word, glitch in the program that is not one that destroys the program,
we
just a
recommend
momentary
y'all 10 right will help us on the high gain signal
that
strength,
straightens
over.
itself out. It's more of an information code that comes up from the computer. Hal hasn't got that knowledge yet. We won't use him for an answer.
Good. So afraid he's going to learn more than I don't. He does. I'm just afraid he's going to tell.
Coming up on 5 minutes to ignition, Gene Kranz getting a go, no-go for descent.
Eagle Houston, if you read your go for power descent, over.
Now, one thing we probably haven't mentioned, Wally, there are all sorts of things around this landing site.
Columbia Houston, we've lost him on the high gain again. Would you please, we recommend he yaw right 10 degrees and reacquire. Eagle, this is Columbia. Your go for PDI, and they recommend you yaw right 10 degrees and try the high gain again.
That's Mike Collins relaying that last information along to Eagle.
Okay.
That's good technique there. He came up just right.
Eagle Houston, we read you now. Your go for PDI, over.
Let's go for the powered descent initiation.
Stabilization control circuit breaker. Thank you, gimbal AC closed. Thank you, gimbal AC closed.
That's the wettest my hands have ever been.
You're 54 seconds early.
Off.
It's 3 minutes 50 seconds now until the powered descent phase begins.
Enable. State scale 25. Eagle Houston, your alignment is go on Yags. On my mark, 3:30 till ignition. Roger.
We're commenting that all sorts of things are around in that landing site 2 area. There's Surveyor 3 up there, Ranger 8 land there. And
Translation for good. Balance couple on.
Surveyor 5, I think that is.
Surveyor 5, yeah.
Auto,
Ranger 6 isn't very far north. I think the closest one is Surveyor 5, which is 20 miles north.
At control, 3 up to mode control. Okay, mode control is set. Tags is reading 400 plus 1.
It's your verbal checklist coming now.
For Army.
They're now reading off the critical readouts in the spacecraft to the ground, isn't it?
Yes. That's double confirmation. He's relaying it to Neil as well.
2.5 minutes now. 14 minutes to touchdown. This engine fires for 12 minutes.
Just thinking, I think this is the first burn in the vicinity of the moon that's on this side.
Okay, sequence camera coming on.
First descent propulsion system burn on this side. Right.
No, any burn of any magnitude at all. Let's see, all of our corrective burns are on the back side of the moon.
Oh yes, that's right. On Apollo 10, they came on up to apogee and then fired
yes.
to go into the. That's right. And by that time, they're on the far side again.
Eagle Houston, if you'd like to try high gain, pitch 212, yaw 37, over.
We've got a minute and a half.
Roger, I think I've got you on high gain now. Roger. Coming up on 1 minute to ignition.
1 minute to ignition and 13 minutes to landing.
Taking the angles, though? I let them in to use them before we yaw around. Right, you pitch 212, yaw plus 37.
Don't know that we could take the tension if they decide to go around again.
Arm descent.
40 seconds.
Number?
30 seconds.
Cut altitude altitude about 46,000 feet, continuing to descend.
I'm just wondering, as
15 seconds.
Newell Trask is sitting here with us, how the moon looks to him as we're coming over. Do you think that's the right place?
Yes, that looks like the right place.
We should have a countdown now.
Lights on. One, zero. Ignition 10%.
Ignition 10%. 10% throttle, I suppose that is, Wally?
Yes, it'll be programmed up as as they get closer to the surface. I think you have that data there. Yes. And that's interesting. Maybe we're having a little ionic disturbance from the engine at this point. No problem, just the fact that it might be trouble getting communications through the plume.
Well, it would mean then that we would not have communication with them in this critical 12 minutes.
We've lost them. Tell them to go aft on me, over.
Our animation shows the engine firing. The lunar module is proceeding from right to left on your screen.
I'll leave it in flu. Relay to it. See if they got me now. I got good signal strength in flu.
Yeah, you should have him now, Houston.
Eagle, we got you now. It's looking good, over. Eagle, that looks good. Eagle, Houston, everything's looking good here, over.
I think you can hear a little excitement in Charlie Duke's voice.
Eagle, Houston, after yaw around, angled S-band pitch, -9er, yaw, +18. Copy.
Yeah, communications are really in good shape again.
Action things agree very closely. Roger.
Great.
10 minutes to the touchdown. Oh boy. 10 minutes to a landing on the moon.
Rate on. Altitude's a little high.
I think it's been almost 10 years since we've been trying to do this.
Now just
2 minutes, 20 seconds, everything looking good. We show altitude about 47,000 feet. Yeah.
Now in about 4 minutes from now, they will get their first look at the landing area. So far, now, their heads are
getting
down.
a little fluctuation in the AC voltage now. Roger.
They're
50 meter maybe, huh?
They are face down, windows
good,
down,
You're still looking good at coming up 3 minutes.
their feet forward.
That remark on that AC voltage was a meter possibly. The ground is not concerned with it.
Nice.
So good.
They rolled now to the windows up position,
Position check downrange to us to be a little long.
as you just saw. In about 3 minutes now, they get that first look when they pitch up, go into more of an upright position, and they can look forward out their windows toward the landing site. At that point, they'll be about 3.5 miles high, making about 103 miles an hour forward with about 13 8/10 miles to go.
I think it's going to stop.
Seven minutes, 45 seconds to landing.
You're a go to continue at 4 minutes. Roger, you're a go to continue power descent. You're a go to continue power descent.
That's another major milestone.
Altitude 40,000.
This is a
Eagle
go,
Houston, we got data dropout. You're still looking good.
go, no-go decision at that point. They could abort the landing at that point if there had been a no-go decision. Got about 68 miles to go. Seven minutes left before landing.
Okay, we got good lock on.
They're at about
Altitude lights out.
35,000 feet high now.
LH is minus 2,900.
Roger, we copy.
At the Earth, right out our front window. Houston, you're looking at our Delta H.
That's affirmative.
Program alarm.
It's looking good to us, over.
1202. 1202.
Good radar data. Altitude now 33,500 feet.
Hal wasn't too far off.
I suspect that Hal may be just about right by the time Doug Ward relays that to us, so he's probably a few seconds behind.
Yeah.
Roger, we got you. We're going at alarm.
Roger, 330.
6 plus 25, throttle down. 6 plus 25, throttle down.
Roger, copy. 6 plus 25.
We're still go. Altitude 27,000 feet.
Same alarm, and it appears to come up when we have a 1668 up.
Roger, copy.
What's this alarm, Wally?
It's a go case. Just
Houston,
apparently
we'll
some
monitor your Delta
Down beautifully.
function that's coming up on the computer as a
Delta
verb.
H looks good now. Roger, Delta H is looking good to us.
A verb-noun combination, no problem as I see it.
Throttle on time.
Roger,
Feel
copy,
it in
throttle
here when
down.
throttle down. Better in the simulator.
Roger.
They say it's better than the simulator. That's consoling.
Lights and things look real close.
Crowds around this country and all over the world are watching this, listening to these communications.
Altitude now 21,000 feet. Still
As
looking
close
very
as
good.
we are. This is the International Arrivals Building, Kennedy Airport, with a big display board there. They see
Velocity
these
down
pictures.
now to 1,200 feet per
You're
second.
looking
This
great
is
to us, Eagle.
Disneyland in California.
Okay, I'm still on flu, so we may tend to lose as we gradually pitch over. Let me try auto again now, see what happens.
Roger.
He's talking about the high gain antenna.
Okay, looks like it's holding.
Roger, we
Oh,
got good
good.
data.
Makes the job easier.
They're down to just 14 miles to go and 4.5 minutes.
7 minutes, 30 seconds into the burn.
4.5 minutes left in this era.
Altitude 16,300 feet.
Oh, boy.
This great the way the
Eagle,
communications is
Houston,
working.
it's descent to fuel to monitor, over.
72.
Altitude 13,005. Velocity
Going down
9,100
fast.
feet per second.
Made it switch over time, please, Houston.
Roger, stand by. You're looking great at 8 minutes.
Correction on that velocity, now reading 760 feet per second.
It's the P-64.
Good.
760 feet per second on the way down. That's pretty slow for space flying.
It is. It's as slow as man has ever flown in space.
It sure is.
Vital says we're go. Altitude 9,200 feet.
8:30, you're looking great.
They're just about
Descent rate 129
approaching
feet per
high
second.
gate.
We copy.
That's the 7,600 foot level. 1.4 miles high when they get down to a speed of 98 miles an hour, and they're just a little under 5 miles from the landing site. At that point, they can pitch forward, get a really good view of the
Eagle, you're
landing
looking
site.
great. Coming up 9 minutes.
At that high
We're
gate,
now in the approach phase. Everything looking good.
as they're inside the high
Altitude
gate,
5,200 feet.
5,200 feet, less than a mile from the moon's surface.
Manual attitude control is good.
Roger, copy.
Altitude 4,200.
Houston, you're a go for landing, over.
Oh, great go.
Roger, understand. Go for landing. 3,000 feet. Program alarm.
3,000 feet. Ooh. Delta landing, meaning they're on their spot, huh?
Roger, 1201 alarm. We're go. Same type. We're go.
2,000 feet. 2,000 feet. Into the ag. 47 degrees.
Roger.
47 degrees.
Listen to these communications, too. We're getting this readout perfect.
Eagle looking great. You're go.
Altitude 1,600.
Oh, this is...
They've got a good look at their site now. This is the critical
1,400
time. If they're
feet,
going to
still
hover,
looking
they're
very
going to
good.
make a decision. Apparently they're go
Roger,
though.
1202, we copy it.
35 degrees. 35 degrees. 750, coming down to 23. 700 feet, 21 down. 33 degrees.
Oh, the data is coming in beautifully.
100 feet, down at 19. 540 feet, down at 30. Down at 15. Okay, 400 feet, down at 9. Gate forward. 1050 feet, down at 4. 33 and a half down. They're pegged on horizontal velocity. 300 feet down, 3.5. 47 forward. Put up. Down 1.5 down. 70. Got the shadow out there. 50 down at 2.5. 19 forward. Altitude, velocity, light. 3.5 down. 220 feet. 13 forward. 11 forward, coming down nicely. 200 feet. 4.5 down. 5.5 down. 160 feet. 6.5 down. 5.5 down. 9 forward. Good. 120 feet. 100 feet, 3.5 down, 9 forward. 5%. On any bite? Okay, 75 feet. Guys looking good, down a half. 6 forward.
60 seconds.
Lights on. 6. Down 2.5. Forward. Forward. Good. 40 feet down, 2.5. Picking up some dust. 30 feet, 2.5 down. Straight shadow. 4 forward. 4 forward, drifting to the right a little. 20, down a half.
30 seconds.
Forward, just. Good. Okay. Contact light. Okay, engine stop. ACA at a descent. Mode control both auto, descent engine command override off. Engine arm off.
We're home.
413 is in.
Man on the moon.
We copy you down, Eagle.
Houston,
Oh, jeez.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
Roger, Tranquility. We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue. We're breathing again. Thanks a lot.
Ooh.
Oh boy.
Thank you.
You're looking good here.
Boy.
Okay, we're going to be busy for a minute. After I'm on, take care of the descent. I'll get the stuff prepared.
Wally, say something. I'm speechless.
I'm just trying to hold on to my breath. That is really something.
Very smooth touchdown.
Kind of nice to be aboard on this one, isn't it?
You know, we've been wondering what this guy Armstrong or Aldrin would say. He stepped foot on the moon, which comes a little bit later now. And just to hear him do it, we're left here absolutely with dry mouths and speechless.
Hey, it looks like we're bending the oxidizer now.
Roger, Eagle, and you are stay for T1. Over. Eagle, you are stay for T1.
Roger.
And we
Sam, stay for T1.
Roger, and we see you venting the ox.
Roger.
It's a great simulation of what you can see there, if you could see it.
That little fly speck is supposed to be a limb.
Gee, they must be in a perfect position, upright. We've heard no complaints about their position.
Just
They
a
landed right.
Just a little dust. Even that concern was erased.
Wow. And there they sit on the moon. Just exactly nominal, wasn't it? Exactly as the flight plan all the way down. Man planning this thing on the surface of the Earth. By golly, we're done.
You know, it's funny, too.
Copy, noun 60, noun 43, over.
Roger, we have it.
Yes, sir, I read Columbia on the high gauge.
Roger, we rigged you 5 by Columbia. He has landed Tranquility Base. Eagle is at Tranquility, over.
It's interesting that they're referring to it as Tranquility Base.
Well, good show.
That was a confirmation to Columbia.
Top reset.
And people have the audacity to say there's not much new going on these days. I think that one's erased for a long time.
I'd like to know what some of those kids we
The
talked
next major
to.
stay, no stay, will be for the T2 event. That is at 21 minutes, 26 seconds after initiation of powered descent.
Columbia went up telemetry command reset to reacquire on the high gauge.
Copy out.
This is a 9-minute period that they have in which they could, under certain phasing conditions, take off again and make re-rendezvous within 2 orbits of the nominal.
Yes.
But they're not. They now have the stay for that period, so they're apparently not even considering leaving again at this time. They
We
got
have
another
an unofficial time for that touchdown of 102 hours, 45 minutes, 42 seconds, and we will update that.
time which will be in the history books
Eagle
forever.
Houston, you loaded R2 wrong. We want 10254.
I'd like to know what those kids who are kind of poo-pooing this thing are saying right at this moment. I'd like to know what they thought in those moments when our mouths were in our throats. How can anybody turn off of a world like this?
Yep.
They had quite a bit of tolerance in that landing speed. They could have gotten up to almost 7 miles an hour, 6.8 miles an hour. The struts are made to withstand that. But they came in apparently right on.
5515.2.
You heard those numbers they were calling out the very last there, like 4, 3, that was the miles per hour.
Less than 4
Or
minutes
well
from
inside.
our next stay, no stay. The next stay will be for 1 complete revolution of the command module.
Which is 2 hours.
I bet they really had a ball when they saw that blue contact light come on. Oh.
Yeah. Yes, sir. That's the one that that comes on when they're 5 feet 8 inches from the surface, and the probe tells them that they're 5 feet 8 inches away and turn the engine off.
Say again.
Mike and Ags to ping the line, over.
Roger, we're standing by for it.
One of the first things they'll do when they climb down to start taking a look at the lunar module from the Earth's surface is to look at those landing pads to be sure that all 4 of them have good solid contact. This is the scene in mission control, and as you can see, while there's undoubtedly a great deal of relaxation there, this mission isn't over. They're still pretty busy.
What we'll do after getting their next stay, no stay, will be to remove their helmet and gloves.
Helmet quantity, up drop.
Removing the helmet and gloves is so they can relax for a while.
Eagle Houston, your stay for T2, over.
Do you recall the term?
I just stay for T2. We thank you.
These are the boys that helped make this thing go right. They're in the trench, and it's a real hot trench there. It's really the front line, I guess, is where the name came from.
That stay for another 2 minutes plus. The next stay, no stay, will be for 1 revolution.
So we've got an unofficial time, which probably will end up being the official time, set down at 4:17:42, 17 minutes and 42 seconds after 4 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time on this day, July 20th, 1969.
Well, we have half of that major goal done. That's getting men on the moon by 1970. The other half is to get them off and bring them home. And this word nominal, I think, sounds so good to me. I have no trepidations whatsoever about the return.
No, it's the way it's gone. They certainly have built. They built our confidence in these machines, confidence that they said we could expect.
A visual description of the landing area from the crew until after we've gotten through these critical stay, no stay periods, and have gotten the stay to remain on the lunar surface for at least one command and service module revolution.
I thought they'd just gotten that word for one revolution stay.
I wasn't sure that it meant the next go check was for a 1 rev.
It may have been. I thought we already had it from, I thought Doug Ward
All
told us.
spacecraft systems continue to look very good to us here on the ground.
This simulation is quite good. Not many people realize it.
Tranquility Base, Houston, we recommend you exit P12, over.
That means leave a program 12 and go on to another program, not exit the vehicle.
Thank you, Wally. I was about to think they were going to jump out there at this point.
That's a computer program 12. P is the abbreviation.
This mission, which left, of course, Wednesday morning, 9:32 a.m., right on time, or 743 1,000th of a second late, from Merritt Island, has landed on the moon exactly 39 seconds late for the flight plan. Flight plan was 102.45.3. They landed at 102.45.42. And I might say that accounts for the fact that in our simulation here, we showed them setting down a few seconds before we got the confirmation they had.
That 39 seconds late is in the gravy. If you recall, we had some hover time, so he took a little bit of time at the very end, and even then had a lot of gravy left in the descent stage to look for a better area. So this surface should be quite reasonable, I assume now.
Now they passed that 9 minutes when they could have made a reascent for a rendezvous within 2 orbits. So presumably they do have the go, despite what we heard from,
I'm sure you're right now.
From Doug Wardeman to go. They do have a go for the 1 orbit.
Hey, Houston, that may have seemed like a very long final phase. The auto-targeting was taking us right into a football field-sized crater with a large number of big boulders and rocks for about 1 or 2 crater diameters around it, and it required us going in P-66 and flying manually over the rock field to find a reasonably good area.
Oh boy.
Roger, we copy. It was beautiful from here. Tranquility, over.
So Neil Armstrong took control, threw it out of the automatic mode, put it on manual, and flew the spacecraft looking out the window over that field.
What's around here, but it looks like a collection of just about every variety of shape, angularity, granularity, but every variety of rock you could find. The
That's
color
Buzz
is,
Aldrin.
well, it varies pretty much depending on how you're looking relative to the zero phase point. There doesn't appear to be too much of a general color at all. However, it looks as though some of the rocks and boulders, of which there are quite a few in the near area, looks as though they're going to have some interesting colors to them, over.
Roger, copy.
There goes the black and white theory.
Tranquility, we'll let you press on through the simulated countdown, and we'll talk to you later, over.
One of the
Newell Trask.
Okay, this 16G is just like the airplane.
Roger, Tranquility. Be advised, there are lots of smiling faces in this room and all over the world, over.
You know, it really is getting to me right now, the justification.
Up here.
Two smiling
It was a beautiful
faces.
job, you guys.
And don't forget one in the command module.
Ah, good, Mike.
It's interesting that they're now referring to
So that last remark from Mike Collins at an altitude of 60 miles. The comment on the landing on the manual takeover came from Neil Armstrong. Buzz Aldrin followed that with a description of the lunar surface and the rocks and boulders that they were able to see out the window of the LEM.
Tranquility, Houston, we have you pitched up about 4.5 degrees, over.
That's confirmed by our local observation.
Roger.
Well, that's practically flat.
It is.
4.5 degrees tilt, that's almost nothing. Excuse me, but I was going to comment. You notice they're referring to them as tranquility. It's base tranquility now rather than...
relay, Houston. I was missing all the action. Roger, we'll enable missed-in relay.
You know, Mike Collins is perhaps the only man in the world who didn't see this today. He doesn't have television up there in the...
I just got it, I think. Roger, Columbia, this is Houston. Say something. They ought to be able to hear you, over.
If you think there were smiles down in Houston...
Tranquility Base, it sure sounded great from up here. You guys did a fantastic job.
Thank you. Just keep that orbiting base ready for us up there now.
Will do.
Eagle's on the base now.
That request from Neil Armstrong.
I don't want to interfere with any words from these fellows sitting up there on the moon. I want all of us to, because I want to hear it. Shut up when we begin to hear something from up there.
Here is Mission Control, Flight Director Gene Kranz going around the room.
AOS 10327, AOS 10413, over.
I do want to comment on all those smiling faces in Houston and up at Base Tranquility and up in the command module. There's a big smiling face here at the CBS News headquarters of Newell Trask, the U.S. Geological Survey, when they started describing that landing site and all the rocks they could see and all the variety. It looks like, Newell, you're going to get some pretty good samples.
Sounds absolutely great.
Do you have any idea what that football-sized field was that looked like a small crater with a lot of the boulders in it?
There was a big bright one quite near the center. I think that may be it.
Oh, right in the middle of the footprint.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I see.
So they must have been just about on
Probably
target.
right near the center. There was nothing else around it, so that gave them the opportunity to fly away from it.
Yeah.
That's what's
We've
so
just gotten
exciting.
a report
There it is in the simulation.
from the telecom here in Mission Control
That's the
that
football field?
LEM systems look good after that landing. We're about 26 minutes now from loss of signal from the command module.
Yeah, we won't lose signal with the LEM this time. They're there for a while.
Yeah. Once they're fixed on to Earth with their transmitters, as they clearly are.
Tranquility Base, Houston, all your consumables are solid. You're looking good in every respect. We copy the dips, venting. Everything is copacetic, over.
It means also that we've got...
Thank you, Houston.
We can look forward to the television transmission. If the camera survived the landing, and there's no reason why it shouldn't, the landing being as nominal as it was, as normal as it was, we've got the links down to Earth clearly, some very good voice signals, so we ought to get good television picture too. And as you know, they're supposed to deploy that camera with Armstrong's first steps on the first of the 9 steps of the ladder, so that we will actually see Armstrong put his foot down on the surface of the moon. That will come sometime between 10:15 and 2:15 tonight, 10:15 tonight and 2:15 tomorrow morning Eastern Daylight Time. A little more than, well, it could be as short as 5 hours, 45 minutes from now. That all depends on whether they decide to rest or whether they decide to get on out early.
I particularly like this statement of Neil's. He moved to a reasonably good area manually. We've had so much trouble. In the beginning, a number of scientific engineers wanted us to go automatically.
The guys that said that we wouldn't be able to tell precisely where we are the winners today. We were a little busy worrying about program alarms and things like that in the part of the descent where we would normally be picking out our landing spot. And aside from a good look at several of the craters we came over in the final descent, I haven't been able to pick out the things on the horizon as a reference as yet.
Right, Tranquility, no sweat. We'll figure it out, over.
I bet Columbus would have liked to have a mission control like that. He didn't know where in the world he was, of course. These fellows are a lot better aligned than that. That was Neil Armstrong. There have been a lot of tests run with all of the astronauts as to identification of position on a surface of this kind, with varying results apparently out there at Flagstaff, and some are pretty good at guessing the exact spot, and others take a little longer.
Well, in the reference to the football field, you need markers to tell where to put the ball.
You might be interested to know that I don't think we notice any difficulty at all in adapting to 16G. It seems immediately natural to move in this environment.
Roger, Tranquility, we copy, over.
Man is so adaptable, it's unbelievable.
Neil Armstrong reporting there, no difficulty adapting to the 1/6 gravity of the moon.
Window is a relatively level plain cratered with a fairly large number of craters of the 5 to 50 foot variety, and some ridges, small, 20, 30 feet high, I would guess, and literally thousands of little 1 and 2 foot craters around the area. We see some angular blocks out several hundred feet in front of us that are probably 2 feet in size and have angular edges. There is a hill in view just about on the ground track ahead of us. Difficult to estimate, but might be a half a mile or a mile.
Roger, Tranquility, we copy, over. Sounds like it looks a lot better than it did yesterday at that very low sun angle. It looked rough as a cob, then.
That was John Dietrich,
Rough as a cob?
It really
geologist
was
at
rough.
MSC.
Over the targeted landing area, it was extremely rough, cratered, and large numbers of rocks that were probably many larger than 5 or 10 feet in size.
No trust, did
When in doubt, land log.
that description out the window give you any clues of where they might be?
No, it's pretty hard to tell.
Sound like this would be a rather interesting terrain to travel over with a vehicle. It's some rather large wheels and treads.
Houston, after you get through this P-57, we'd like an e-memory dump, over.
Roger, after this first P-57, you want an e-memory dump?
That's affirmative. Columbia, Houston, we have a P-22 update for you if you're ready to copy, over.
P-22 is what?
That's another program for his computer on the command module. It's a navigation program.
Mike. P1, 104, 32.
The schedule from here on out
18.
is a
P2.
it's post-landing checkout
104,
systems, which goes on for a couple of hours.
and that is 4 miles.
It should go on about 6:21
based on a targeted
Eastern
landing
Daylight
site, over.
Time. Then they go into a half-hour, 35-minute dinner hour,
Roger, understand. Based on a targeted landing site, T1 104, 32.
and they have a choice of this rest period coming up. That's when they go into the 4 hours rest if they decide to take it.
Roger.
If they do take the rest period, it's over
They
around.
landed left or right of center line, just a little bit long. Is that all we know? Apparently, that's about all we can tell, over. Okay, thank you.
And they, after the 4 hour rest period, another hour for a fuller meal. And then they take 2 hours to don their suits and step out at roughly 2:10 a.m.
Just thinking of something that we in the flying game always log every minute of our flight time. Now, are they logging flight time now in that they're away from Earth? Or Does Tranquility Base eliminate flight time? Very interesting question. I'm not sure how that'll turn out.
I don't know. They're in flight around the Earth.
They surely are.
And Houston, our mission timer is now reached 9:02.
That great big aircraft carrier in the sky.
47. It's static.
Roger, copy. Your mission timer is now static. Say again the time.
9:02:34:47.
Roger, copy. Tranquility. That gravity align looks good. We see you recycling.
Well, no, I was trying to get time 1665 out, and somehow it proceeded on to the 622 before I could do a verb 32 enter. I want to log a time here, and then I'd like to know whether you want me to proceed on the torquing angles or to go back and re-enter again before torquing. Over.
Roger, stand by.
That's a picture. That picture was of our simulation at Grumman Aircraft, that page in our lunar module there, which shows the flight book in which they're checking out procedures.
Wonder if we have the right size rocks to put down if the fellows say something about them later.
Well, you know, these simulated models here and at Downey elsewhere, as far as the lunar surface goes, are done as accurately as they can be done from the pictures we've had from Surveyor,
Yes.
Ranger, and from the orbiting Apollos. Actually, to rock size, and as Newell can tell us there, the maps that were made for this are terribly detailed on those large-scale maps, right down to little X marks where rocks of over, what is it, 2 meters, 6 feet?
2 meters,
So,
yes.
so, yeah.
They probably have some smaller than 2 meters that they're talking about.
Houston, we'd like you to recall P57 and run through the gravity align one more time. Over.
Roger, I concur with that.
I
And
suppose.
Roger, Tranquility. For the emission timer, 2 suggestions. Check the circuit breaker, pan 11. Also, reset and attempt to start. That 9 in the first digit might have something to do with it. Over.
What, do they got some problem there?
No, they're...
Okay, we've tried both of those. If circuit breaker is in, when I reset put it in reset, I get 9020440. When I release it, now I get 9020449. I'm going to cycle the circuit breaker.
Roger.
I cycled circuit breaker and got all 9. And it will not now reset from all 9.
Roger.
What's that, Wally?
This is a computer program, and they're getting through they're checking their gravity. It's like a plumb bob. You're trying to find your local vertical with a plumb bob effect, except they're using a computer to do this.
Momentarily on the mission event time, correction, the mission timer.
Okay.
Well, it's just an experiment they're dealing with in a sense. I mean, it's not a function of the spacecraft. But
Oh, it's part of the alignment of the system.
Yeah.
But it's not that critical.
Yeah.
When you have the local gravity effect in there, then your platform is, of course, aligned with the system that they're on, which is Tranquility Base right now.
You know, I'm still getting an occasional shiver up and down my spine here, just as I sit here and think about this thing.
I'd say the color of the local surface is very comparable to that we observe from orbit at this sun angle. about 10 degrees sun angle or that nature. It's pretty much without color. It's gray, and it's very white, chalky gray as you look into the zero phase line, and it's considerably darker gray, more like a ashen gray as you look out 90 degrees to the sun. Some of the surface rocks enclosed here that have been fractured or disturbed by the rocket engine plume are coated with this light gray on the outside, but where they've been broken, they display a very dark gray interior, and it looks like it could be country basalt.
Basalt.
Roger. Tranquility, we see the now 93. Surf 34.
That means a volcanic origin.
Basalts are
Yes.
volcanic origin, yes.
These fellows poo-pooed their ability as geologists, but I suspect they've absorbed quite a bit of knowledge and they'll be able to give us a pretty good read on these rocks before they even bring them back to us.
I'm sure they will.
Well, Newell and his contemporaries gave us a lot of their time. We all had a lot of ground school, and of course, this crew, fantastic.
Please vent fuel and ox again over. It's building back up.
This observation of the broken rocks is one that I don't think we expected.
Ox going now.
Might call it the first geology pick on the moon.
Oh.
I mean that they broke as a result of
Said
the
they broke
rocket
as a result
blast.
of
Yes,
Houston, you can open both fuel and ox vent now. Over.
first geology pick on the moon. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty good size one.
Houston, Tranquility, standing by for a go on Ags to Pink the line and a lunar line. Over.
Stand by.
They, of course, carry a little pick with them and a couple of scoops.
Houston, you're a go for the Ags to Pink the line and then the lunar line. Over.
Roger.
These test pilots, astronauts, hero adventurers, coolly going about their business, standing there a few feet from the moon's surface and their platform.
It's increasing rapidly. Over.
I don't see how they can go to sleep for 4 hours.
I don't feel the least bit tired, do you?
We show 30 psi
I don't know.
in the fuel and 30 in the oxidizer.
Roger, we're reading somewhat different than that. Stand by.
I'm emotionally exhausted already, and we haven't got them down those steps yet.
The fuel temperature is reading 64, and in the descent and the oxidizer, that's descent 2, and the oxidizer is off scale low. Descent 1 is showing 61 in the fuel and 65 in the oxidizer.
These figures are just simply of scientific interest, technical interest to Manned Space Center now for future flight. There's no more use for the descent engine.
No, it's to close out the data to get what would be called a nominal usage of consumables. It means, though, that we could make a lighter vehicle in the future if we could expect it to be nominal every time.
Yeah. Wouldn't have to carry as much fuel.
Yes. So it's significant to
If
get
you don't
all
have to
that
carry
data.
that weight, then you don't have to have the structure to carry that weight.
That's it. You might even take a third person along.
Yeah. Correspondent, perhaps?
I saw that look.
I think Newell Trask over there would probably get in ahead of me. Yeah.
Now indicating 20 psi in the fuel side.
Roger.
And 2 in the ox.
The lunar module does now made this first big effort and got onto the surface. The important stage from here on out for the safety, security of the men and fulfilling that other half of the mission, getting them home safely, is the upper stage. The lower stage has done its work. It's put them down on the moon just as they were supposed to be, and it's now left on the moon. It will be a perpetual memorial to this flight, and as a matter of fact, on one of the legs there, just to the left of the ladder, is that plaque, which has also been made, I think, of stainless steel, so that even after this fragile lunar module perhaps erodes away. I don't know what's going to erode it. No atmosphere there, no wind, but it should be there forever. But if it should, at least the stainless steel plaque presumably would still be there.
I suspect that monument will last forever. It should, unless it's impacted over a few million years.
Or destroyed in a war.
1.5 psi in those tanks. Roger.
Have you noticed how the engine bell actually is down into the surface? The engine bell actually is bent out of shape as it touches down.
Oh, really?
When the legs crush. So it actually is below the flat surface where the limb is.
Those legs do crush. You use the word obviously properly, but it's like two pipes fit together, and then up in the interior of the larger pipe, which is the main stem, is this honeycomb material which actually crushes as a smaller pipe comes up into it. What we see here, you might be curious, looks like a Christmas tree kind of wrapped up there, is this thermal wrapping, thermal and against micrometeoroid impact of this colorful material. Since there are no aerodynamic problems out there in space, the spacecraft does not have to buffet against the winds and the atmosphere. It doesn't need to be streamlined, and that gives it this bug-like look, and also it can just be wrapped with that material. It stays right there.
One observation I heard in the past, I think it was Bob Gilruth that said it, never heard of a bug with 4 legs.
That's right. You know, they're undergoing right now the impact of micrometeoroids, presumably. I mean, they're always piling into the moon there. There's no atmosphere to stop them. They're all out in space, but down here they burn up in the Earth's atmosphere before they ever reach us. Here they're bombarding the moon. What are the speeds? From 25 to I think 150,000 miles an hour. In this bombardment, and while they burn up in the Earth's atmosphere, there's no atmosphere out there in the moon to destroy them, so they're piling right on in there. This is why the spacecraft has to be protected against these micrometeoroids, and why the men have to. Of course, these are, you can't see these things.
They fall below the category of dust, most of them.
Yeah.
Fortunately, if they were much larger, of course, they would penetrate a large steel plate, and we can't afford to provide that much protection.
But all of this great drama about one of these specks that you can't even see hitting a spacesuit and penetrating it is a little bit Sunday supplement-ish, I think, if I may coin a phrase. It's not really quite that way. The spacesuit itself can take care of that kind of penetration.
We have that protection with a mylar. It's a thin plastic sheet with a metallic vapor coating over it. In fact, that's somewhat similar to the same material you saw on the limb. Yeah. This is layered in many layers, so like my fingers. And if something did penetrate it, it might get caught in there. We'll look for that when we get the suits back.
There's so much protection for this moon environment, which is nothing like Earth, of course. There's no wind there. There's no atmosphere there. The sun, not having been deflected and diffused by the atmosphere, strikes the moon at its full force, so that the moon is heated by the sun to 250 degrees above 0 Fahrenheit. The men who walk on the moon later today have to have boots, of course, against that 250-degree heat. If they pick up something, their gloves have to be able to take the 250 degrees. The suit has to be pressurized so that they carry all their environment, Earth environment, with them, the air and the cooling system. There's the bottom layer of the suit has an intricate series of little vessels in it that carry cooling water that have to be carried on their back. It's not very simple to go out and step on the moon.
They really, when you think of it, when they step on the moon in this spacesuit, or what we call pressure garment assembly, they're really moving within another spacecraft. Mm-hmm. It has a complete environmental support system, and of course the environment they breathe.
When they talk about man putting foot on the moon later today, we're talking about man putting his foot on a huge pad of material that he's carrying around with him that's going on the moon. Stainless steel, that webbing that makes the bottom layer of the boot, and then, I forget, 14 layers of mylar or something, mm-hmm. and stuff in between there. Let's look now at Wapakoneta, Ohio. Neil Armstrong's parents there, Mr. and Mrs. Stephen Armstrong, are about to come out of their home, and here they are. They're out of their home.
4:17 this afternoon was an especially joyous and a very thankful moment in the day at the home of Mr. and Mrs. Stephen Armstrong, the parents of astronaut Neil Armstrong. Mrs. Armstrong, what were your feelings at the moment that Apollo 11 was coming toward the moon?
When it was coming toward the moon, well, I was just hoping and praying everything would go well. That was my feelings.
And at touchdown?
And at touchdown, I must say, praise God, from whom all blessings flow.
Mr. Armstrong.
Very, very thankful that there was a successful landing.
Were there any moments of concern watching it on television in your home?
No, it was all going so well. We were very comforted.
Yes, we were faithful in the successful landing.
What about the Russian Lunar 15, which is in orbit close to the moon? What were your feelings about that when you heard about it?
Well, I hope they're successful with whatever they're trying to do. I hope they're successful.
I don't know what business they had there, but if they did, why, that's something else. I thought that we had prime space there, but it seems like we didn't.
Mrs. Armstrong, what impact do you think this achievement is going to have on life as we know it?
I have a feeling now that maybe we won't realize it for a long time, but there certainly will be a great impact, and I hope it will all be for the good of all mankind.
What are your feelings?
Well, I'm sure that something will good come out of it, and I hope a whole pile of good things will come out of it, because this is what this whole universe needs.
We were talking before, and you mentioned that an event like this could help bring the country together.
We hope so.
We sure do.
Yes, we hope so.
There are a lot of your neighbors here today, and they've been in your garage watching it, listening to it. Have you been comforted by their presence?
We certainly have, and we thank each and every one.
We feel quite comfortable with the people around because they've treated us just tremendously, and when you're in this type of position, why, everything that they do nice to you, we sure do appreciate.
Well, now we've passed one critical point, landing on the moon. What about the moonwalk itself? What are your feelings?
Well, we just hope and pray it will all go well.
Have to ask everybody to keep praying so we can get back off that moon and back safe to the Earth.
That's right.
Thank you very much for coming out.
You're welcome.
This is Mark Landsman at the Armstrong home in Wapakoneta, Ohio.
Obviously, a couple of pretty relieved parents. I remember your wonderful folks, Wally, on that first Mercury flight, and how pleased they were that you'd made it well. And they'd had a little more history of flying than the Armstrongs at Wapakoneta. But, It must be a marvelous moment for them and for the wives of the spacemen as well, all of them in Houston. We were advised that Mrs. Armstrong was watching with her children in a bedroom of her home while visitors came and went in the other sections of the house and watched elsewhere there, and some of her relatives. The Aldrin family at home, and so are the family of Mike Collins. Most of them went to church this morning and then went home and watched this dramatic moment.